What's up, Fanout Crew? Colby and Brian are back with the next movie in the MCU Rewatch series, and we are still in Phase 1, and tonight we are going to be reviewing Captain America The First Avenger. One of our very loyal viewers has not stopped hounding me about when this video is coming out. When are you going to do the Captain America video? I wish we had a Captain America video to review. So, because he's been such a pain in the ass, we decided who better than the man himself to join us for this episode. My best friend in the world. Sorry, Brian. Jonathon, what is up, my man? Welcome to the show, I guess. What's going on,
There's
man?
no more pressure on me to make you happy. This is great.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Fanout. It's an honor and a privilege. That's all I got.
Jonathon.
Yes.
What do you think you're gonna see tonight, man, on this totally professional show?
This 100 professional show, we're gonna go over only one thing you guys missed from the Thor review, which was Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. And that was it.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I don't know.
Hot guy or Hawkeye?
Hawkeye.
I don't know.
It's Hawkeye. No, it's
Hot guy. I don't know what that, like, I don't know how we just completely forgot
It's all right.
to do that.
It's all right. You guys,
We completely forgot.
we're not quite paid professionals.
I've argued a lot of times that Hawkeye and Black Widow do not make sense in the context of the Avengers. They're street level heroes. Why are they even here? But anyways, that's another argument.
That is.
But I do like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. Hawk guy.
Yes. Yeah, Hawkeye is pretty good.
We
yes.
did not honor him.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I guess we just watched the Hawkeye trailer and we just didn't think about it. But I actually really, he's only in it for a few minutes. I think it's interesting that he's right-handed in that movie because reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, watch it again. He's right-handed, and it's like,
Wait, just a damn
Jeremy Renner. Jeremy Renner really is left-handed in like real life.
That's
So
clearly why we didn't recognize him is because we all knew he was left-handed.
It was Bizarro Hawkeye. Like we just weren't
It was
looking
a
for him.
scroll.
Yeah.
This is the first official appearance of a scroll in the MCU.
Mostly.
Scroll
He looked
watch.
very Skrull-ish. He did. In the rain and shit.
All right, so let's get to it. Brian, what are the categories? Remind the audience how we do this.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute. So we rate things on 5 categories. We've got cinematography, cast performance, plot, rewatchability, my favorite, and music/score. We rate all of those from 0 to 5. You can do half points. We'll combine all 3 of our scores to give an overall score and see how that stacks up against the other movies that we've rated.
All right. Well, which category you want to start with first?
You know what? We have a guest, so I actually am curious what your most important part of a movie is, and we'll start in that category.
I'm assuming you mean me when you say the guest and what important is in a movie. If I'm thinking about what I enjoy from the MCU, for the most part, is how much I keep going back to these movies. So rewatchability is probably the big one.
Yes.
This is like a complete inverse of what we normally do rewatchability last, but I like leading off with it. This is good.
But if you're asking
Colby's
me,
fired because just so you know, Colby did not like this category when I proposed it originally. I had to fight for this.
That's not true at all. That's not true.
Is
at
that
all.
Jeff that didn't want it? I don't remember.
No, dude, I was like, rewatchability, that's a good idea. We should do that.
Nope.
but yeah, if you're
Now it's recorded. Colby said I had a good idea.
watch out! It's an invading Cameron.
Cameron on camera.
But yeah, if you ask me where I rate all my MCU movies is how often I want to sit down and watch them, and that's to me it's the most important thing. But everything else is appreciated. The older these movies get, the more I appreciate everything else about them. But the number one thing I look at is, again, how often I see myself going to Disney Plus and clicking on that Marvel tab and looking at that list of movies and I could click on almost any single one of them.
Are you like me?
100%.
I mean, we'll get into the scores obviously, but are you like me where it's like it's kind of hard to rewatch Phase 1 because like what comes later, and you're just sort of like me during the whole Phase 1, I'm like Monty Python. I'm like, get on with it.
Yeah,
the whole time because
Yeah, and particularly the one that if we talk about how we came to know and love the MCU, my least favorite origin movie is the one we're talking about right now, which was Captain America: The First Avenger, and that was until, of course,
Even more so than Hulk.
even more so than Hulk,
Wow.
because
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been that guy John A.
no. The reason is, and the reason is, back in 2011 when this movie came out, it was in the way of the Avengers that was right around the corner,
Right.
and that's
Right.
what I was
and
ready for.
It had already been announced at that point, and we were just totally like, let's get on with
Yeah,
it.
and that's the sting.
I
Plus,
just realized both.
This movie is a prequel to the Avengers anyway.
Yes.
It's the only one that's a true, like, it's a prequel. All right, let's get to it. Rewatchability. John, go.
Rewatchability,
0 to 5.
0 to 5. For me, it's
You can do 0.5s if you want to.
I'm not gonna do a 0.5 except for one category coming up later. Rewatchability is a 3. It is one of those movies that, again, if I'm scrolling through my Marvel repertoire, it's definitely one that, like, I will watch Iron Man, Avengers, Thor, and then Captain America somewhere in the middle. That is where my rewatchability is for Captain America, if I have a choice. But again, if somebody turns it on, there's maybe, I don't know, there's a lot of the movie I enjoy, and then I'll stop what I'm doing, turn to the TV, and actually watch it. Other than that, there's a lot of background noise going in. That is why it's a 3 for me.
Hey, and so just to make sure I'm following you there, that's a 3, not within just the vacuum of MCU. That's like just in general as a movie. A 3.
Ooh, yeah, I'll put it at a 3 out of 5.
Because
Well,
this isn't just within the
we've
MCU. This is overall.
We've never really said if our rating system is like necessarily within the context of the MCU. It can be if you want it to be. It's your rating. It's your rating.
I'm gonna leave it as, because that's a whole bag of worms, man. We go down the entire movie thing. I'm gonna say for the rest of this video, within the context of the MCU, Captain America: The First Avenger is a 3.
Yeah, so that's actually exactly where I have it. I have it as a 3, and it's just kind of what I spoke on earlier. It's just because I know what comes later, and this film is good on its own.
Yes,
like I really enjoyed this movie. It is, but it's a setup for the Avengers movie, and that is one of the like most perfect comic book movies ever made. So do you want to spend 2 hours watching this or watching, the next movie in the series, which is just the culmination of all this stuff. So rewatchability, while a good, metric for a movie, I don't want people to think that a 3 is bad. It's not. It's just I could watch Guardians on repeat. I could watch, the original Avengers on repeat, or Infinity War or Civil War. This movie is kind of in the middle for me. I rate this much higher than other films, but there are other films in the MCU that are just I would rather watch again.
Yep, I agree.
I'm actually slightly lower than you guys at a 2.5. There's parts of this movie I really enjoy, and it's odd that I normally do not like origin movies, especially for well-established characters like Captain America. The only part of the movie I really like are actually the beginning, before he gets his powers. I think some of the stuff they do there is really cool, but then also anything Red Skull. Like, if Red Skull is not in the scene, I'm not that interested. So, kind of like what you were saying, John, there's a couple moments that are fun, but overall, the movie is definitely not something I'm going to be paying attention to when it's on. I just kind of tune in and out for certain scenes that are interesting.
Yeah, I wrote down I have to be in the mood to watch it, and I don't mean to say that it's bad. It's just it's one of those ones that I will watch after I've watched some of my S and A tier movies. Speaking of which, since Jeff's not here, John, I'm interested to hear where do you have this movie in the overall like tier list? B, A, what do you have it? C?
This is, it's not C. It's low. It's like a B minus. And the thing is, now if you ask me when this movie came out, again, because we've made it to the end of the entire first saga,
Infinity Saga,
the Infinity Saga, and if you would have asked me before Endgame came out, it was probably a C movie. But because of Endgame, I appreciate the first Avengers so much more that it bumped it up a notch. I go back and I
his
revisit
overall journey.
Yes, I go back and I appreciate the first, like Chris Evans donning the Captain America shield so much more than I did back in 2011 when the movie came out.
And I think Jeff had this movie in S tier, which I thought was just nuts personally. But
that's crazy.
That's why we do these, you know. So, all right, what's the next category, Ryan?
Let's jump over to cast performance.
Brian, go ahead.
I'm actually going to rate this at a 4. I do feel like the casting in this movie is right. There's not really any characters that I would recast. Got a perfect Red Skull, perfect Cap. I feel like they could have gone a lot of different directions with him, but who would have thought the Human Torch would be the right fit?
Mm-hmm.
Peggy Carter
certainly
was
not Jim
great.
from The Office, because John Krasinski was in talks for the role too. I mean, who knows? That could have worked.
Yeah, I mean, he probably could have pulled
He's
it
awesome.
off. He looks the part.
Yeah.
I could see him pulling it off. But Peggy Carter was great. If you haven't watched her show, Agent Carter, it's actually a really good show. And I actually like that show more than this movie, interestingly. But just really well done, really well acted. Tommy Lee Jones was kind of a surprise casting for me in this. I don't think that his character would have really been important if it wasn't Tommy Lee Jones, but he made that role feel more important than what it was. So solid 4.
Jonathan, you look like you've got some comments on Tommy Lee Jones.
No, see, that's it. I mean,
curious.
Really quick with my rating, I'm going to completely agree with Brian. It's a 4. Everybody does a great job in their respective roles. I was talking to Colby earlier today about Tommy Lee Jones. And that is the only case in this movie where when I watch it, I don't see Colonel, so I don't even know the Colonel's name. In my head, it's Colonel Tommy Lee Jones. So
yeah, totally.
In a sense, he pulls me out of the movie a little bit because I look
like he's just looking at the camera, talking to the audience, like, "Hey, I'm Tommy Lee Jones."
Yeah,
Deal with
exactly.
it.
Like it is a huge screaming. That is Tommy Lee Jones in every scene. He plays Tommy Lee Jones. And so that's it. And I'm not, again, it's nothing wrong with it. It's just that for me, that's why it's a 4 out of 5 or even a 4.5 is because Tommy Lee Jones is playing, in my mind, Tommy Lee Jones. Now.
Yeah. And honestly, just focusing in on him, I think the last movie I saw him not be himself in was Batman Forever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But other little acting crumbs over here, dude, I think, again, the reason that it's a 4 for me is that I hope to God somewhere in the future the MCU brings back in some capacity Stanley Tucci. He is too good for he was great, you know what I'm saying, as Dr. Erskine. Erskine, yes.
Do you want to kill Nazis?
Yeah, I mean he was great. Yeah. And so if they were to I would hope that they do bring back Stanley Tucci in some respect. I really do. Even if it's a prequel.
I can't remember the guy's name, but they end up uploading him into a supercomputer, and he makes an appearance later on.
Zola.
Yep, Dr. Zola.
Yeah. Toby Jones. Yeah, he's awesome.
He shows up in the What If series for all you guys that want to go check that out.
I'd enjoy seeing more of him.
Yeah. I have it as a 4.5, basically for the same reasons you guys do, but I actually kind of like Tommy Lee Jones just because that's what we've grown to expect from him. Like, that's who he is. It's exactly like Jeff Goldblum as the Grandmaster in Ragnarok. He's playing a caricature of himself, and it just works. You know, he's like, "Oh, look at him, he's threatening me." Sparkles. Like, he's playing himself, and it just works, right?
Yeah.
And Chris Evans is really good in this. Hugo Weaving is just like he might as well just have a giant arrow pointing to him that says bad guy. Like, this guy was born to play a villain.
I just had flashbacks to a night at McGuire's talking about Hugo Weaving.
Oh yeah, I mean, that guy. Who's that guy? Yeah. Who's that guy? My wife is probably cracking up right now when she watches this. Because that's her inside joke.
Before Colby said another word, we have not mentioned Sebastian Stan yet.
Damn it!
So there you go. Yeah, I was just like, do not. So before I forget, I want to mention Sebastian Stan by name.
That was actually the next thing I had.
Well, an asshole.
Yeah. Seriously, like, yeah,
Sure.
good segue.
Show us your notes.
You can't see it; it's cursive. You kids don't know how to read it. Sebastian Stan is really good in this movie because he's Bucky in this movie. He's not Winter Soldier yet. He's just Steve's friend. Speaking of Winter Soldier, this is actually just a little tidbit. It's really cool. When Bucky falls off the train, the scream that he makes, the sort of sound that the little howl sound that they play in Winter Soldier whenever he's on screen is actually a like super digitized version of Bucky's scream. They've like modulated it. They've modulated it and made it sound like that. So next time you watch Winter Soldier, that's actually cool. Bucky. That's actually Bucky screaming. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Star-Lord's mom makes an appearance in this movie for like the actress that plays her. Laura Haddock, I think, is in this for like gets an autograph from Steve. She's one of the many characters that have played, or one of the several actors that have played more than one character in the MCU, and it happens more than you realize.
Yeah.
She doesn't really say anything, I don't think, but yeah, I mean, this is a good cast. I really like this ensemble. I mean, there's some really, really good actors in this movie. Stanley Tucci is just amazing, dude. The guy like is awesome in everything he does. So even in that horrible Transformers movie, he's good.
Oh.
All right, Brian, what's the next category?
We'll just jump to cinematography. You go first on this one.
I have cinematography as a 4. It seems to be kind of my default scoring thing for most MCU movies. They're just beautifully shot. I mean, I don't really have any specifics other than the scenes in the mountains with Hydra's like base there is just really, really cool looking. I like all the shots at Camp Lehigh, some of those like crane shots they have, just kind of like showing the whole area. And the way that they shoot Steve little Steve, as I call him, is pretty amazing. It's one of the very first, I guess, iterations of deepfakes that like, that's not Chris Evans, but you don't know that's not Chris. Exactly. Like you don't know how they're doing it other than, well, they have to be doing this, but you can't tell. I mean, you look at...
It's one of those moments where like, if a special effect makes me argue with myself, like that's not real.
Then
yes, it is.
Then it's good.
Like,
yeah.
So
yeah, I have it as a 4. There's just some really good shots in this movie with all the action with the war and stuff when Steve throws his shield and it kind of like comes to the camera and stuff. All that stuff's really cool. Just really nice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump in here and say, what did you have, Colby? A 4?
Yeah, out of 4.
Make sure I wrote that down right. I'm also at a 4. One of the standout scenes to me is actually like when he is getting the super soldier serum and he's in the machine and then he kind of busts out and there's that huge chase of him chasing down the car.
Right.
That entire scene, I remember watching that in theaters and being like, oh my God, this is awesome. And I felt like that was a great way to showcase Captain America and kind of what he was capable of and him kind of learning what he could do. And like the crazy thing is with his character, and I think they did a good job kind of demonstrating this before he got the super soldier serum, is even if it didn't work, if he came out as little Steve, he probably still would have been running after this guy. And they did a really good job building his character with the kind of little Steve. And then that made his character so much more powerful in all the other scenes. And just the way they laid all of that out was excellent.
Yeah. And I have something similar to that. Like, you talked about the grenade scene and stuff, and the flagpole scene really speaks to who Steve is too, because he's not only like selfless and wants to save everybody, he's really just sort of crafty and smart. And they're like, hey, whoever gets the flag gets to ride back, to base.
He's got street smarts.
Yeah, he just pulls the pin, and I mean, like, and that's there for that reason. Like, there's like that's what you're supposed to do. And even the guy looking at him is like shocked, like, holy crap, someone figured it out.
Yeah, while that was funny, like there was a creative choice that they made there to have that, and it built his character up having those scenes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that scene, the flagpole scene, it showcases what Dr. Erskine is telling him that it amplifies. After he gets the serum, it amplifies what he has, which is why he glances at that map, that Hydra map. Think about it. That there's a scene where he literally looks at a map for 5 seconds, and he can pinpoint exactly where all these bases are. Now, because he's witty, and they show you that he's witty. He can figure it out. He's smart. He's not a dumb kid from Brooklyn. And they showcase that a little bit later again with the whole goes from the flag scene, gets the Super Soldier Serum, amplifies that wit or smarts, the street smarts, into I almost have a photographic memory glancing at a map.
Yeah, I didn't actually put that together, but that makes total sense. It just sort of takes who he is and amplifies it to, nth degree. And he has these street smarts and he can sort of read people. So now he's looking at this map and he's like, hey, this is where the Hydra bases are. I totally never picked up on that. That's awesome.
I mean,
yeah, and that's also part of why Red Skull's a perfect villain in this, is he's the complete inverse of Steve Rogers. He's all these negative Nazi things and ramped up to the nth degree. Also super smart, super strong, and also just super kind of crazy to the nth degree.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's going to be a Fanout 3 of a kind. I'm also giving it a 4. Dude, there's so much I like, man. I don't think they're like throwaway scenes though. Like I was watching it again today. I watched this movie probably about a week and a half ago. I watched it again because Colby asked me to come on the show, and I only watched like the first hour. I'm like, man, there is a lot, and I made sure I didn't just watch it as background noise or something. Sat down, I watched a lot of it, of the first hour, and I'm like, man, there is a lot of stuff in here that is just like really cool. The scene where Dr. Zoloff goes to see the Red Skull and he's having his painting and he turns off the light. You see the silhouette of the Red Skull that you want to see the bad guy, but they just keep him hidden that much longer. And just like go back and watch that scene, all the science stuff that's in the background. It's so like, I'm going to say drab, and you're like, well, that's not very cool. But the way it's drab, it's like so metal and cold and 1940s, you know what I'm saying?
It's like, yeah.
Well, actually, I was gonna say that's something I'm surprised none of us touched on. Is this movie is a period piece, and they did a good job.
That's true. Yeah, it's hard to make
all
stuff
these
look
environments totally believable for the era.
Yep. I mean, they're like,
especially the montage videos of him going on the stupid tour.
We'll go back to the cast for just for a second, but kind of building on what you just said, Brian. Like during the World's Fair part, in New York and stuff. Dominic Cooper does a really good job as Howard Stark.
Yep.
And they do a great job of making that car look old, but still looking like it's got some Stark, repulsor technology and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I don't know how people do period pieces. Like, I don't know how they just make sure every single thing is perfect in frame, but whoever is in charge of doing that on a set, I guess, director of photography, whatever, those guys need to be commended because making period pieces has got to be super, super difficult.
Yeah, I think the right art style for that car is like Atomic Age. Like when I think of Atomic Age, it's like 1940s mixed with, it's like Fallout basically.
Speaking of cars, the Red Skull's car is like,
oh dude, seriously, give me the
first
keys.
time it pulls up right next to a 3-story tank in the beginning of the movie, and we're not quite to the plot, so I won't bring up something else that comes up in this movie. But the cinematography again, that scene where Cap jumps from one platform to the other, fire and everything is going crazy. You're just like, I don't know, man. I buy it. And the way the movie is shot helps me buy the super soldier in World War II. And
you totally feel like you're in Germany, in the mountains or in the wilderness fighting these guys. I mean, you just feel like you're there.
There's a few scenes that you look at it like, okay, whatever. And like the where when they're launching themselves on the train or whatever, yeah, fine, all right, cool. But at the same time, you're like, oh, what's going to happen on this train? And what happens on the train is like, okay, that I forgive maybe the shoddy CGI or there's a very unbelievable aspect to it for me, but whatever. It's a movie, all right?
Right.
Well, just go back to the car riding scene right before they go into the secret lab. Like Steve is visibly nervous. He knows he's about to get the serum, and they're just driving along, and then then they go into this secret room, and there's this old lady, and the camera like pans down to her like grabbing the gun, like, are you allowed to be here? And it's just the way it's shot is just really cool, and I don't know, I love that whole lab scene, the way it's lit, and just the confines of that room. Like, there's a lot of action that happens in that room, and that's where it all started with Captain America. It's just a cool, it's a cool shot, cool scene.
Yeah, and I think that kind of transitions us nicely into plot. John, I know you held back earlier on something. You want to just jump right into that while it's fresh?
While it is fresh is plot. I gave it a 3, and it's because, in my opinion, it is a predictable movie.
Mm-hmm. It's funny. Every time you give your numbers, both of you guys, I'm constantly just looking down at my notes like, yep.
Yep. But no, so there's 2 things that I want to touch on this plot. I am very thankful that we got Hydra as the antagonist and not Nazis. I get it. It could have been very, like, we all know that Nazis are bad. Nobody likes Nazis. And I didn't want this to be Captain America fights the Nazis. I didn't want that. I wanted a Captain America fights a Marvel bad guy, and we got that. So I'm very happy for that to happen. The second big point I wanted to make is we begin our collection of the Infinity Stones, and we get we get our first interaction with the Tesseract besides the little stinger at the end of Thor, that we get to see this square, this cube in a suitcase. So we have our first interaction with that whole thing. We know it's super powerful. That
Norway scene is legit, by the way.
Yeah,
that Norway scene is awesome,
dude. There is, but again, now get out of the cinematography. You just talk about the plot. You have a dude doesn't believe he's superhero-esque. They make him a superhero. He stays a superhero. He does his journey. He meets the girl that he wants to love and everything, and go on and make lots of babies. And Haley Atwell's okay in that aspect, I guess. And then he runs and he saves the day, and that's what we get. Hero loses best friend aspect. It is serviceable. It's good. It's not bad. It's just that if you would have sat me down again in 2011, hey John, what do you think is going to happen to Captain America? It's going to be a skinny guy, turns into a super soldier, beats the bad guy in the end. Because again, even back in 2011, when this movie came out, 6 months later, we're getting the Avengers, and ta-da, Cap's going to be there. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah, it's your standard formulaic comic book movie where the guy gets his powers and then has to, make a choice and
beat the bad guy.
Yeah, I mean,
I will say that Captain America probably did break the record for taking the longest to actually get the girl.
Oh, that's very true. Yes.
Yeah.
He does kind of get frozen at the end and goes the long way around to then get back to her.
Now you're talking about metaphysical stuff because he goes back in time. So did the time really pass? It doesn't matter.
It took a long time for him.
Yeah,
he went the long way around.
I have this as a 3.5 based on everything John just said. It's a silly, fun comic book movie. Yeah, I mean, we know what's going to happen, and not because we're familiar with the Captain America story, but just because this is what happens in comic book movies. And this is kind of before the new age comic book movies kind of reinvented the thing, like, Guardians and Black Panther and Civil War. How Civil War took the hero of the first 2.5 phases and made him a villain for the last third of the movie, and it's just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is a standard comic book movie. Like you said, he gets his powers, he fights bad guys, and wins in the end. We know what's going to happen, but it's still good. I love and kind of hate Red Skull in this movie. It's kind of weird because like Hugo Weaving is so great, and they just sort of like touch on why he is the way he is. But like, how does he know how to leverage the Tesseract? Like, how does he even know what the Tesseract is? And it's like, I get it. They have to start showing the Infinity Stones at some point. They can't just take forever. So it's not a big deal. It's just, there are things that Red Skull has done that we don't know about, and it's like, how we need a prequel for Red Skull, man.
Yeah, why
awesome.
Is this guy so bad? Again, it's easy to label a bad guy because he was a Nazi. You know what I'm saying?
They do touch on it that
yeah,
they do touch on it that Erskine was experimenting on him too, and he like just it amplifies who you are, and he was already bad, so now he becomes super bad guy, and I mean it is what it is. I love Hugo Weaving as an actor, and I want to see more of Red Skull in the MCU. I was really happy when they brought him back in the last two Avengers movies.
Yeah, and I actually think it makes sense for him to have been interested in the Tesseract and at least know something about it. Like if you watch any of the documentaries out there about Nazis and the occult, like they were really big into trying to research all that supernatural stuff. So it's not surprising to me that he would have found some myths about things like this and kind of latched onto the idea. Now him knowing how to use it's another story, but at least his kind of awareness of the myth of the Tesseract does kind of make sense.
Yeah,
the Hydra is an offshoot of the Nazis.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It's just I wish they would have shown like some more about how he kind of learned to harness it, and because like he gets it, and then like the next time we see it, he has like a laser gun from it, and it's like, well, how did you make that leap? But I get it. I mean, it is what it is. The only other slight nitpick I have with this movie, and this is just me, like as soon as Captain America gets his powers, like they go do that scene where he rescues the kid from the guy that has the magic lighter of doom, which is dumb. Like this lighter can just, what the hell is that?
Yeah, that was a great line.
But I don't, the movie just sort of gets really stalled out after that. They start doing like the bail bond scenes, and then like he is Captain America, but he's not really fighting. And it's like, why is this guy not like at the front line? Like we know what he can do, just because he wasn't a military person doesn't mean he's not the best weapon that we have. And they're trying to like use him to sell bail bonds. And I know that's all from the comics and all that stuff, but the movie kind of loses me for about 15 minutes after he goes overseas, and then he finally makes the choice to just leave, and then the action starts, and then it kind of bring me back.
I think that was a weird like fan service thing they did. Like, because in the old comics, like he really was used. Yeah, I mean,
one of the comics covers is him punching Hitler, and they totally like show that in the in the movie. But it's just like, we need a little bit more modern version of it. And I know it's hard to modernize something from World War II, but like, we know we don't need to see that. Like, just send him over there and then go to the action.
Yeah, I'm actually with John on this one. I'm at a 3. The plot is very predictable, and I feel like this movie suffered from something that the sequel trilogy of Star Wars also dealt with, where they focused on plot points I wasn't interested in when there was like plot points right next to it that they could have talked about, and I would have appreciated it a lot more.
Give me one of those, Brian, real quick. I'm just curious.
So with Captain America, so kind of like what Colby was hinting at with Red Skull, would have been really... like there's a lot of potential there to go backwards with him and kind of focus on like what got him obsessed with the Tesseract to start with. Because
they wasted 15 minutes showing people dancing and singing when they could have like shown montages of him like in the past, and this is how he is, and now we know he's really smart. We can see him fiddling with the Tesseract and tinkering with it instead of just going from point A to point Z. I had the Tesseract. Yeah, now I have
or
laser
even have
weapons.
gone back with him with I've forgotten his name. Was it Dr. Erskine?
Erskine, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Show that.
So there's just a lot of other stuff they could have done that would have been really interesting. And since this is already sort of an origins movie where we've moved backwards in time, like 60, 70 years, right back to World War II. There's a whole lot of stuff they could have gotten away with doing other little rewinds and montages.
I feel like that's probably why they didn't do it,
service.
though. I feel like that's probably why they chose not to, because they were like, hey, we're already going back to World War II. We don't want to go back to World War One.
I guess.
So I get why they did the whole, montage with the singing, because, that's totally from the comics. I get it. That's who he is. It's just I would have liked a different take on it. But, again, it's not like MCU movies are going to win any Oscars for their plot, but that doesn't mean to say that they're bad. They're comic book movies. We know what we're going to get, and in that way, it totally succeeds.
Oh yeah, like again, I'm not going to sit here and be like, "Hey, John, sorry, I know it's movie night. We got to watch Captain America: The First Avenger." Like, oh, sweet, all right, cool, plug it in.
Yeah, yeah, totally.
Let's do it.
Yeah, and it's not a bad movie, right? Like we're being critical of it.
It's probably my
I
second
think
favorite
it's better
movie
than Mortal
in-
Kombat, which we tore in half. And Mortal Kombat was a fun movie.
I was gonna say it's probably my second favorite movie in Phase 1 leading up to the Avengers, but I might have Thor slightly ahead of this one, if not just right there with it. This one's better than Iron Man 2. It's better than Hulk. Sorry, John. It's not as good as Iron Man, but I really enjoyed this movie. It's really sad at the end. I mean, you know it's
I'd watch
coming.
this over
You know,
Thor, I think.
really, yeah. You know it's coming. I mean, you know he and Peggy are not getting their happy ending, at least not this point in the story. But you do really feel for Cap. In fact, of all the Phase 1 characters, he's probably the character that you're supposed to connect with the most. I mean, nobody can relate to Tony. He's a billionaire, genius, playboy, philanthropist. No one can relate to that. No one can relate to Thor. No one's a Norse god. But I mean, people can relate to Steve. You know, getting bullied growing up and not being able to, you know, do the things he wants to do by fighting for his country and stuff like that. Like, people can relate to that.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? I'm realizing something. Like, this really is a prequel.
Oh yeah, totally.
If you think about other movies, like not in the MCU, but just other movies in general that have tried to do prequels are really hard, right? Like
Yeah.
you have an established endpoint for sure of where that story has to end up. You might know some tidbits about the start, middle, and end of that, but considering we knew that he was going to have to end up in a block of ice somehow,
Yeah.
like.
Right.
A 3 is not that bad for a prequel, in my opinion.
Yeah, this actually has some pretty dramatic
way
moments.
worse prequels out there.
It's not like Revenge of the Sith where we know Obi-Wan beats Anakin for the 24 minutes that they fight. You know, it's like,
yeah.
So anyway, let's move on to the musical score, Brian. That's the last one, right?
Score, yeah. I was really torn on this one. Normally I'm pretty harsh on scores. I originally rated this kind of low and then ended up going with a 4. While I have a hard time specifically remembering any of the tunes from this, while I'm watching the movie, I really appreciate like the era of music that they're using throughout this film. I'm just a really big fan of that genre of music, and so it fits really well. It's not necessarily memorable, but it's the right score for this movie.
Totally. There's only maybe one, you know, the Steve Rogers Captain America theme that I can really remember, but you nailed it. Every song or, you know, piece of music in this movie is perfect for the scene that it is in, and you are there with that music, like you're in it. I've got it as a 4.5 just because Steve's theme, you know, when he's throwing the shield toward the camera and all the, you know, explosions are going off in the background, that score is just iconic. I mean, you know it when you hear it.
It's synonymous with the Avengers now.
And then I was going to say, they kind of took it over with the Avengers movies, but that shows you how good of a thing it is, you know?
Yeah. I will I'll chime in and say 4 as well. Now I'm definitely scoring this as scoring the score as a 4.
I did that last time and no one laughed. So
Oh, well, I just laughed at me. That makes it funny. Anyway, so there's one thing
and one rating ago.
There's one thing that this movie does with its score that some of the MCUs just fail at. There are moments that the movie shuts up and lets the music play.
Mm-hmm.
It lets the music set the tone of what's going on, which is it does a really good.
When he's charging into all those tanks and just and like they've got the flamethrowers and stuff, and he's just using the shield, and like the music is just carrying those scenes.
Yeah, and so they use it correctly, and I think that's where, like I said, listening to the dun 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 dun, dun that's it, and they let that resonate throughout the movie.
Yeah, and I'll say this too, like the score is so important in any film. My wife is a musician. She went to college to learn music education, all kinds of stuff. So she composes music, but and people always make fun of like going to college for arts and crafts or whatever, but like there's a science behind making music that draws emotions out of people. Like the right music paired with the scene will just like be the difference between someone breaking down into tears
Yeah.
and
Go-
not taking it seriously.
Go watch the original Halloween without that John Carpenter score, and
Oh, yeah.
and then come back and tell me that movie's good. And it's like the
Yeah.
score.
Oh, yeah.
Jaws is 2 notes. Dun dun. I mean,
Yeah.
it's brilliant.
But John, I think you said it well though on this. The score, like they kind of playing into the cinematography. There was a lot of scenes where they did let the music kind of speak for what was going on, and
Yeah.
it also added very well to the whole kind of period piece and kind of blending it, making it believable. There's a lot of good, solid choices.
Again, I'll just talk about a scene that stands out. Of course, it's the Captain America theme, and he's walking down the road with all the POWs.
Yeah.
So and that one scene, they're just letting the music play, and it's literally Cap walking.
It's people
with
clapping
POW,
and
yeah.
people walking, you know,
and that's all
the
it is.
music.
And it's great. So they did the score justice in this film.
Yep, for sure.
Agreed.
All right, so what about overall score, Brian? What's our
I was gonna say, so that's the final category. So I was the meanest to this movie, which actually surprises me because I think I had this higher in our overall.
You and I
tier
are
than you.
almost always like the same for some reason. So I mean, it's weird that it's
you have the highest score on this one.
Yeah.
So overall, we're at 3.7.
Okay.
So I came in at 3.5. John came in at 3.6, and Colby came in at 3.9, almost a 4.
Oh.
And it's weird because if you would ask me to rank them in in phase 1, I wouldn't have this movie like at the top or near the top, but I also wouldn't have it at the bottom. It's
I mean, 3.9 is a solid score for any movie.
Yeah, that surprises me
when you're talking a 5-point scale.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so I don't have our other scores handy, but 3.7 ain't bad compared to what I vaguely remember being low scores for Thor. I could be wrong. It's been a hot minute. But Colby,
I don't
our scores.
I know I
somewhere
posted my scores
in the
on
video.
your on the
Yeah.
I posted my scores for Thor on the Thor video, but I couldn't tell you what it is offhand.
Guess next up will be Avengers. I'm gonna have to rewatch it again at this point because I
can't wait.
rewatched it and then we took too long. So I'm gonna have to rewatch it again.
I'm not gonna spoil anything from that movie. It's a lot of good stuff going on in there.
John, man, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate it, dude. For those who
it was good to see you too, John. I haven't talked to you in a hot minute for sure.
It's been a while, Brian. That's a damn shame too.
Yeah,
I blame
for
Colby.
for the viewers, John and I have been friends since we were about 8 years old. So over 30 years now. So
The last time I saw John,
everybody.
I think I was buying a blueberry pie.
Oh yeah,
Ooh,
yeah. Speaking of which, Thanksgiving's only like a month away, so I'm gonna need one of those, John.
Oh, they're so good.
They are.
I complain about not having any,
and I don't even like them.
desserts here.
What I mean to say is, I don't like blueberry pie normally, but dude, you have a talent for that stuff. So, yeah. Seriously. John, why don't you let the people know where they can find you on the internet and, you know.
Oh, the old Tinty-webs. Guys, I stream video games Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday from like 11:30 to 2 o'clock. So if you got time on your lunch break, come check me out on Twitch at That Guy John A. That Guy, one word, space John, space A.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. Maybe, depending on how things go, maybe we'll have you on again. I'm sure we will. You were definitely great tonight. Thanks for coming in. Brian, you got anything else?
I was just going to say kind of a early teaser for some stuff we've got coming up. I have a new pinball machine on the way. So we're going to be doing an unboxing video of that, hopefully in the near future. Within the next couple of weeks, I should be receiving that. We are experimenting with streaming pinball. So, John, once we get set up, if you're interested in playing some pinball, you have to come over and be.
I do enjoy slapping balls around
or something. Yeah, so keep a lookout for that if you're interested in that sort of thing.
Then you need to play Donatello on that Ninja Turtles game because there's all kinds of balls when he hits it into the van. They're all over the place. Balls just come flying at you, man. It's crazy.
It's terrible.
Yeah. Guys, we appreciate you hanging in here for this video. Sorry it's been so long. We're gonna try to do these, every week at least. Just life can get in the way sometimes. Next movie is obviously Avengers, one of the best movies in the entire MCU, in my opinion. And let us know what your scores are for this film in the comments. Like and subscribe. We really appreciate it. It really helps the channel more than Go over to Twitch and give John a follow and check him out on his video game streaming.
Give him your biddies. He needs.
I'll take your biddies.
And guys, as always, fan out. See you guys.
Fan out.
And out.